But then actually, to my surprise, the next day I actually got a call from Bank Negara, the central bank, saying that this idea makes sense.
Right.
Would you guys want to talk more?
Right.
I think that's when we really got the confidence. Quickly put together a company, got it registered. I didn't have the money, so Edwin, my co-founders, just kind of put up some money, about 100,000 ringgit. So in my office room, there's a big signboard that says that I consider every day we don't die a success. So we put together, each of us put up like 50,000 ringgit, including the staff. So we have a small pool of fund. So we actually went around and started lending to different people. We accepted that we could fail at that point. But I think there was just no other choice. We just had to keep going on and on.
Welcome to a special edition of Fintech Fireside Asia, where we are recording live today at the PayNet's brand new Fintech Hub, a space that's designed to nurture the next generation of Fintech innovators. Now, I've met Xing Xian, I think about 10 years ago. He was a much younger man, alongside with a couple more of his co-founders who really had a baby face back then. And even then, you can kind of tell that they had the makings of a great founder. Now, today, CapBay disbursed over 4 billion ringgit in loans. They have served over 2,000 SMEs in Malaysia, and they are the only Malaysian fintech company that's featured on CNBC's World Top Fintech companies. And of course, they were also winners of our inaugural Fintech Frontiers Award 2 years ago. But most importantly, having Xing Xian on stage gives an insight about what the PayNet Fintech Hub is like, because not only is he a mentor, he was also from Imperial College as well. So it's a nice little coincidence. So let's travel back in time. Let's think about how your journey started. Let's start from the beginning and talk about some of the key moments that led up to founding CapBay and what led up to this point. I know it's a long time ago, but try to dig your memory.
I got to set a tone a bit, because I think I see so many other bigger, more successful fintech founders here. Many of them I actually look up to. So thank
your fellow mentors and all.
Yeah. This morning when I came up, I told the same thing to my girlfriend. I say, so many other guys here. Why me? And then she told me something. She said, you know what? Sometimes people learn more from failure. You just have more than others. So yeah. So I think happy to share that a bit more later on along the way. So think things, to your questions, right? Things that kind of led out to this. Honestly, it's a lot easier to connect the dot backwards, because and now just look back, what are the things that potentially led to the idea of CapBay back then. Some of the moments I remember were basically talking to my dad when he was basically a fisherman, decided to become a trader. Really bad at financial management. So every morning we got calls from the bankers, the branch manager calling, "Hey, Mr. Ang, you got to put your money in the bank by 9 o'clock. If not, the check is going to bounce." So I think just kind of like years and years of that kind of life. And then I think I also remember moments where I call up I was trying to help as a high school student. So I was trying to help. So I call up all the factoring companies, and it was just hard to get any solution that worked. It was hard to understand, and it wasn't there. Other moments, for example, there's this thing called kutu. I don't know whether you know of it, called duit kutu.
The Malaysians, I'm sure.
Yeah, so the Malaysians would know. So basically, it's a bunch of people get together, you put together your money into the middle, and then everyone basically bid for the pot. And then the ones who bid the highest basically get to borrow that money. So I think that's the kind of like the first exposure to crowdfunding, I would say. And my family was doing that all the time, because my dad was trying to borrow money from everyone, right?
I mean, that's a certain twist to crowdfunding, not your traditional.
Yeah. I was thinking whether I should talk about it, because I was worried that it's illegal. Look out online. Apparently, if it's traditional sense, not as a business, it's not. So I think those are the things that kind of brought together the idea. And I think when in 2012, 2013, when I was doing my master's, Then I saw the first generation of the P2P crowdfunding companies like Lending Club or Funding Circle. I think got really amazed by those companies.
Yeah.
So I think I was spending more time reading about those things than in school. So So I think that's how all these things brought together. Kind of the making of CapBay, pretty much.
You know, what really fascinated me when we were having a conversation about your founding journey was also the serendipity of it all, right? How sometimes in life things just come together. It's like the forces of the universe trying to bring everything together. And I remember you mentioned to me that at the same time, while you were doing a lot of deep thinking about starting this kind of business, your co-founder had the same idea as well. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think the other co-founder of mine, Daryl. So I was actually thinking about doing that. And Daryl, back then I didn't know him. He was doing his master's as well. So he's doing engineering, but I decided to write a thesis for his master's about exactly the same idea. So basically a 10,000 word thesis about how a marketplace financing approach could actually help businesses, especially in the developing world, where there are more opportunities for new financing options to be given to the SMEs. And then through a more market-based crowdsourced approach, we are able to put together a bunch of investors who have very different risk appetite. So I think it's just like 5 years later, suddenly we got to know each other and say, hey, let's
But that's the thing about life, right? A lot of us have ideas. I think many of us in this room who are maybe not entrepreneurs, we're like, hey, I think this business idea would be really great. I should try to do this. But a lot of us actually never start. A lot of us ideas remain ideas. So can you point to a moment where the idea became reality for CapBay and you guys are like, hey, we should start this. This is a business.
I think there was kind of a particular point, but the truth is that actually I spent 3 years, not 3 years. So I started thinking about it in 2013. Didn't do anything until 2016. So for that 3-4 years, I was just thinking about it, planning. I was also talking to everyone, trying to validate my ideas or trying to get a confidence. So hopefully more people tell me yes or no.
How old were you then?
2013, I was like 24, 25.
All right.
Yeah. So during that time, thinking about how to get it done. So I built a deck to convince myself. Because before I went for my master's, I did a few months in a consulting firm. So in consulting firm, we were told to put together a hypothesis tree. You have this hypothesis. So what are all the sub-hypotheses and all the facts that I can put together to
Actually, we do have the deck over here.
Yes,
I think it will help people illustrate how you convince yourself. And I sometimes think our biggest doubters is ourselves.
Yeah, so back then it was called Crowd Factor. So it's meant to be a factoring solutions by the crowd. So that's how the name came about. I think the first 2 slides just kind of problem, solutions, how we make money and all that. So I thought the more interesting one is I probably start thinking about what are all the things that could go wrong, right? Because the main reason why it took me years not to start is because there was all this risk. So I had to put together all these things. These are all the format that I still did back then, just, consulting. We get a bit anal about making things sure things were aligned and all that. Thinking about risk, what does it take to be successful when we first start, and then in the long term, if we were to get successful, what are all the things that need to be clear? So I come to think of it, I thought it's quite rudimentary, but that was what was needed back then to give me the confidence that we're saying that there's a lot of demand, we know how to differentiate ourselves, and we know how to do it, right?
Yeah.
So I'm sure the consulting partners will look at this and throw it out, but it worked for me. So managed to convince myself and also use the same thing to convince a few other co-founders to join me as well.
I guess, as they say, don't let perfect get in the way of good, right?
Yeah.
Back to my question about how it became reality. And of course, you put together all this slide to convince yourself. When did you and your founders look at this slide and realize, let's start a business?
This one is really about luck. So I think we spent years thinking about it, talking about it. But it was just a typical one fine day. So back then, there was a startup pitch event somewhere near my house. So I just walked over and decided to have a look how other people do it. And then there were 5 teams who were supposed to actually present, but one of them decided to pull out last minute. So the organizer just talked to us and said, you guys got idea, why not just go out and share about it. So we just went out and shared.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it was terrible. My first time presenting the idea.
As first times often are.
Yeah. It was terrible. I mean, I just thought like it was just bad, right? But then actually, to my surprise, the next day I actually got a call from Bank Negara, the central bank. Somebody from central bank apparently got my number from the organizer and called me saying that this idea makes sense.
Right.
Would you guys want to talk more?
Right.
It sounds like scam, right? You know, like my regulator call up somebody out of nowhere. And I mean, he was a very junior staff. He thought it makes sense, and then he pointed. So I went very detailed. He told me that in the financial sector blueprint 2011 to 2020, somewhere among the 220 items, one of them is actually about a market-based financing approach for receivable financing. So he said it could work. So he put together. So he basically said that no, just come in. As a Bank Negara, you can just call the banks. So all the senior bankers have to come in and listen to our ideas. Yeah. They gave us all the feedback, telling us that this is not going to work. But the central bank guy was so convinced. He had a lot more conviction than me. So he was like, Mike, we try again. Never mind. So the second round and then the third round, finally, when one of the bankers said that this actually could work, we might even want to invest. I think that's when we really got the confidence. Quickly put together a company, got it registered. I didn't have the money, so Edwin, my co-founders, just kind of put up some money, about 100,000 ringgit, and said that one day when we make money, you can pay me back. You don't have to worry about it now. Yeah. So I think that's how the company got started.
And I think it's so interesting because I remember when you guys first started, you were called CapBay. It had such an old school name to it. And then I remember you mentioning, then you tell us about how you switched from CapBay to CapBay.
No, I think just everyone keep calling us CapBay because CapBay is just a very difficult to pronounce. CapBay. So over time, everyone calls us CapBay. So we know that the right name was CapBay, but it cost 25,000 ringgit to change the domain name. So actually, just now in my last slides, right? Originally, we only planned to use 120,000 ringgit to start the entire business. So 25,000 ringgit was very expensive for us. So it took us 2 years to suddenly decide that it makes sense to make the switch.
And I think it points back to the earlier conversation about luck, right? And sometimes in life, you just never know that moments like this, and even moments that may happen in the PayNet Fintech Hub, right? Like you just go out, you show the pitch, the right person at the right time, listened to the right pitch, came to you and said, you should build a business. And I don't think you ever pictured like from that one pitch, you'll be sitting here today, dispersing over RM 4 billion in lending to SMEs. And I think that's just the kind of things that happen when you put yourself out there and try, right? But of course, again, in entrepreneurial journeys, there's ups, there's downs. In this, I guess, more or less 10 years journey that you have as an entrepreneur, what was the most difficult thing that you have to do? What was the most difficult decision? Or what are some of the toughest moments that you've gone through as an entrepreneur?
It was always, I think every day is difficult, right? So in my office room, there's a big signboard that says that I consider every day we don't die a success. And that has been the kind of some motto that all of us live by. But I think there are a few things that kind of that I remember the most. So the first one was that literally, so we were quite lucky. The first time the first year we decided to launch the business, we went and talked to multiple VC, and immediately we got 3 term sheets. So I again quite lucky catch the time when everyone is looking to invest in fintech. But as soon as we took the money, we couldn't actually get anything done within the first year.
Right.
Our initial plan was actually to build. We started as a multi-bank supply chain finance platform. So we went and talked to all the banks who said okay during the Bank Negara sessions that this is a good idea. Took us 3-4 years to talk to, 2 years to try and work with them just to get it started. But then along the way, people quit. project got shelved, not a priority. I think just for that 2 years, we couldn't actually get anything moving.
Right.
So we only managed to get out of that. I think after the investors keep complaining, saying that we take the money and do nothing. We actually then decided to just put together some money of ourselves. I remember even my staff was telling me that, can one, boss, don't worry, new product, I will go and sell more. So, but we got 0 client. So anyway, in the end, no bank. So we put together, each of us put up like 50,000 ringgit, including the staff. So we have a small pool of fund. So we actually went around and start lending to different people. The first guy, I think by then, we were doing that for like a good 1-2 years until we managed. Securities Commission decided to invite more players to actually set up a P2P financing platform. That's where we suddenly had access to a much bigger crowd. So the business, we had access to supply of funding, so we can use that money to lend to other people. So I think that was the first time we had challenges. But then that actually led to the second biggest challenge we had, because once we got the license from the Securities Commission, we got so bullish. We started hiring so many people. We were telling we were giving out offer letters, right? And then everyone joined me somewhere around January 2020. And that's when COVID hit.
Right.
Yeah. So then a lot of the investors pulled out. So so suddenly we were having such a high expenses. We had no funding. Right. So I think the runway was very short. So just had to keep talking to every single one. I think we only had a few months worth of runway. It was just so stressful because I didn't want to disappoint the people that I have managed to convince them to give up their cushy corporate banking job.
Right, they just left their job.
Yeah, they just left their job, right? And then, and it was actually COVID. So to tell them that, sorry, you have to be let go, they wouldn't be able to go back to the banks and actually get a job again. So I think that was the most stressful moment. So I think eventually we were talking to every single VC or PE that we could talk to. And I think it's good that we managed to find somebody who were willing to put up some money.
Yeah. So I think that's a very rough moment, right? And at every point of an entrepreneur's journey, there will be one of those moments where they have to really do or die and kind of like push through these moments. Give us a peek into what that was like. What did it take for you mentally and emotionally to be able to like rise above this kind of challenge?
I think it was just about kind of trying to be as steady as possible. We accepted that we could fail at that point. But I think there was just no other choice. We just had to keep going on and on. But I would say looking back, there were things that could have been done much better. Right? So for example, we shouldn't have started a business hoping that the banks would actually come on, because knowing that it takes so long for the banks to actually sign up new products. And we were actually leaving our so-called fate to the hands of the banks, which and when it is not their priority, it was our everything. But to a bank, launching this new partnership with a fintech was just something that somebody could basically go to their boss.
Number 15 down.
Saying that I want to launch something new. And when the person leaves, then that's gone, right? So not having control in the own fate, I think itself was a very bad thing. I think just more of, I think to your question is more of, at that point, I just had to keep pushing forward. But looking back, definitely would have done something very differently.
Would you say that was one of the most important lessons you learned as a founder, to never leave your destiny? And also, as some of the presentations were saying earlier, right?
I really resonate, right? When Farhan mentioned about the never leave
the destiny in the hands of someone else.
So actually, even nowadays, when we really hold that to our heart. So whenever we hire new staff coming in, we are telling them that we have no way of pay. There's no way we can pay you more than other banks. So we cannot pay you a lot of money. But there's one thing that definitely I think we can do more is that in CapBay, when people join CapBay, I give them more freedom and more opportunities to do things. They always have access to voice out their view and want to do and actually realize their biggest potential. So definitely something that we hold very close to our heart.
that's the kind of energy that you can only get in a startup and nowhere else, you know. And I think-
Benefits of joining young companies.
Yeah. So I kind of want to take a step back and think about at a larger scale, right? When you think about the kind of business that CapBay is, what kind of impact do you hope to leave upon society through CapBay as a vehicle?
I think now we have kind of hit a certain scale and the business is running quite steadily.
4 billion?
Yeah. So I think, I mean, the scare of the 2020 also nowadays has turned us into a very different animal. I think we prefer to run business more steadily. We have been profitable for the past 3-4 years, rather than the typical tech companies who are always running in the red, right? So now we see our roles quite differently. So number one is really about actually also supporting the new up and coming players. So all of them actually have a lot better ideas. So I would love to stay ahead of the curve and at the forefront of the innovation, but we keep seeing new companies who come up. But I think they didn't have but they needed the so-called luck that I had, right? Go to an event and then met somebody from the central bank to support the idea. I think, like, for example, Fintech Hub is trying to make it more
Put a
systematic.
structure to that luck.
Correct. Put a structure to the luck.
Yeah.
I think we see ourselves playing a role in, for example, opening up certain ecosystem for the young companies, or even provide capital, right? Certain fintech companies, especially in the space of payment and financing, working capital is tough. And if you are young, you cannot go to the banks and get that money. So I think being the kind of financier to the young fintech companies is something that we can play. I think open up our ecosystem and data is something that we can contribute.
Sure.
I think that's CapBay, right? But actually for me personally, I hope that I can also play the role in being available to a lot of the young
mentees who might be interested.
To share our ups and downs, the learnings, also to be there when they have their ups and downs, hopefully.
Yeah. But I also want to peer into that 4 billion number, right? And over that 2,000 SMEs that you've served over the years. Can you point to any memorable moments where you felt as a fintech firm you were able to impact a company's trajectory positively or someone's life positively?
Okay, so this story I've told once. So when we first started CapBay, how we do our business was that we just quickly put up a website and a Facebook page. So do some Facebook marketing, and we basically asking random people whether you want to borrow money from us. So the very first guy that we lent to was a sole proprietor who was importing lab equipment from China to supply to one of the University Malaya, I think UMP, University Malaya Pahang. So he needed 6,000 ringgit. And then we basically used our savings and lent him that money. Very careful because we were so scared of losing that 6,000 ringgit. I mean, back then it was a lot.
At least you know what your retail investors are thinking about, because it's your own money.
Yeah. We're always very careful because I think we started with our own money, right? So that same guy, right, a few years later, actually, so after that deal, he stopped. So we thought that's it, right? We will never see him again. But I think a few years later, he actually reached out. And by now, he was doing businesses that was like hundreds or thousand times bigger, right? He was doing like 600,000 supply. He was doing like 3 million supply to the different universities. And then he was always telling us about how that time, just that kind of financing actually helped him get started. And then there was another event where somebody just walked up to me and said that, hey, thank you so much. I used to only do one project every year. Now I do 6 because I have the confidence of the cash flow. So I think it's moments like that make us suddenly realize the true impact that we as CapBay are generating. And also and constantly reminding us of why we started the company. And it's something that every time we get stories like that, because we get it a lot more nowadays, So whenever stories like that come in, we would actually share it with the team so that we keep everyone motivated and reminded on why the company was started in the first place.
It harkens back to the mission, right? And without missions like this, I don't think your staff would have been like, yeah, since young, I'll put in 50K. You know?
Yeah. I think a lot of belief. People really want to get it moving.
No, for sure. And I think sometimes when we think about 4 billion, 2,000 SMEs, it's a very faceless numbers, but it's stories like this that drives us, and it also keeps us as a media organization wanting to go on to tell this kind of stories about how fintechs are impacting society at large, you know. Now, of course, I'm conscious of time. We do want to continue talking a bit longer, but I think we only have a couple of minutes. So let's wrap up and talk about what's next for CapBay. I know that you guys have expanded to Thailand. Give us a sneak peek into what you guys are working on and what's keeping you excited.
Yeah, I think so. A few things. Number one, of course, I think the business continue to grow. So I think steadily, I think that's great. We were along the way. A lot of our clients start telling us that as a Malaysian company, when you expanded beyond Malaysia, when they go to Thailand, Thailand banks don't recognize them. They got no support from Thailand. Even the Thailand fintech lenders wouldn't want to lend to them because foreign companies are thought to be dangerous. So we set up in multiple countries in Southeast Asia, basically to be there to support the Malaysian companies expanding overseas, and also to support the Malaysian companies who actually export overseas, because we are there to help them do the credit evaluation, customer due diligence, and even collection. So I think that's something that we have been doing. Something more exciting is actually driven by the recent trend. So I think like what was shared earlier, the new AI technologies is really driving so many changes in different businesses.
Yes.
And we are seeing there are going to be a lot of new business. We are already seeing a lot of new businesses coming up and growing very fast. And what we still don't see is that, what we are still hearing is that because these companies are new, the banks are not financing them. So we started to see ourselves becoming a financier for the new business model, the digital companies, and being there to understand the new business model and finance, provide them usually the first check in the first loans, basically, for all of them. But over time, we also see ourselves becoming more specialized. So we are not going to be a general SME lenders, but we are seeing ourselves specializing more in, for example, the digital businesses, I think healthcare, certain public sectors. So I think the main value that we see ourselves is not so much as the lender, but more of an ecosystem builder that provide the data, they organize the data, the technology such that financing and all these financial services can take place, powered by all this new technology that is driving the market development.
Okay, with that Xing Xian, I think it's been so interesting checking in on your journey 1 decade after we've met. I think let's check in again in a decade and see how you guys have.
Exciting.
And thank you for your time.
Thank you.